So, moving right along, in case folks are interested, we are broadcasting at www.coopradio.org. We are also on the dial at 100.5 FM. And joining us on the line are Nathan Crompton and Andrei Mihailiuk. Did I say your name correctly?
It's all right. It's Mihailiuk.
Say that again?
Mihailiuk.
There you go. And we know each other from way back when the Mainlander was on the radio, right?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't know that was addressed to me. Yeah, I do remember that. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
And Nathan, it's been a long time since we've connected. And so thank you so much for taking this time out. You guys are doing fantastic work at the Mainlander. Can we talk a little bit about the Mainlander first?
Sure. Andrei, did you want to take that?
Sure. So the Mainlander is a publication that's been around since 2010. Kind of came in the wake of the Vancouver Olympics. Nate has actually been there since the start. He's a founding member of the editorial collective. But yeah, we're a publication that tries to cover things happening in the grassroots in and around the Lower Mainland, and just trying to, be an archive for, for leftist happenings and providing some sort of critical lens on, some of the frankly terrible things that our city gets down to from time to time.
And where do folks find you on the internet?
We are at themainlander.com.
So simple, huh? Okay, folks. It's up to listeners now to go and check it out. I've been following you guys from such a long time, and I appreciate the work that you're doing, and also for taking this time out to speak with us about this particular article that you've written around the Vancouver Public Library and how it's I'm going to say harassing its employees. Tell us where it came from and how you guys decided, like how did it come to you, and how did you progress then with this article?
Yeah, would you like to take that, Nate?
Yeah, sure. We were approached, or we had been in conversation with a few workers since the late summer, roughly. Just sort of hearing anecdotally that this was an issue. We slowly started putting together an article, and in the last couple of weeks, sort of started to really push it out the door. And to our surprise, it hadn't been covered. So when the piece finally came out, it definitely had a high circulation.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a fantastic piece, and thanks for breaking the story for us, because we generally tend to think of libraries as being, I don't know, maybe neutral, but it's a little alarming.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were surprised. I think that part of the piece documents kind of the shift in the governance of the library and the library board since the election of ABC Vancouver. So definitely since 2022, old trustees have been phased out, at least two such cases, and more friendly, more ABC friendly appointments have happened. But yeah, I think you're right. People are a bit surprised that a library, a place of freedom of expression, a place of progressive values, was kind of so heavily on its own employees.
Did you guys get a chance to? Sorry to jump in, but did you get a chance to go back to those two trustees that were let go and have any of their opinion on it?
Yeah, Andrei, did you? I'll let Andrei take that.
Well, you spoke with Mel DeMont, did you not?
That's true. I did manage to speak with both trustees, and there was a quote from Melody in the article quite rightly just stating that this was a very heavy-handed approach, and she kind of shared some of her experience as a trustee. And also I was able to speak with a second person, who, Adir Youssef, who also recently was phased out of the library board.
Andrei, what surprised you when you were researching this article, or a couple of things that maybe stood out for you as you were going through it?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that kind of stood out to me is the way that library administration was trying to handle this particular issue through the lens of like multiculturalism, and also through freedom of expression, because this is something that they have come in hot water for in the past.
Have they? Yeah, tell us.
So back in 2018, the public library got into some hot water for hosting a talk featuring Megan Murphy, who is a very well-known anti-trans, anti-sex worker writer.
Right. That's right. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah. I remember.
And despite wide condemnation from LGBTQ plus groups, the library decided to go ahead with allowing them to just platforming Megan Murphy in this talk.
Mm-hmm.
And they did so in keeping with its value of intellectual freedom, is how they put it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, despite this sort of grandstanding, we are now in a situation where we have library administration that are cracking down specifically on their staff's ability to, express solidarity with Palestine.
Right, absolutely. And were you also able to get the sentiments of some of the staff around, or maybe this another way of asking the question is, were you able to trace around how this happened, from the trustees putting pressure on the administrators, then taking to toe a line? I mean, is there any sense around how this went down?
Well, it seems to be that all of this originated from a series of complaints that were levied towards this art exhibit that was at the Britannia Library. This is an exhibition that was called Still Here, and one of the paintings in particular was of an Indigenous person in Indigenous regalia standing next to another Indigenous person wearing a keffiyeh. And there's actually an FOI that details some of the specific complaints that were levied against this. But basically, there are people that were saying that, having this art of a person wearing a keffiyeh was making them feel unsafe within the library. And they also expressed concern about staff people wearing watermelon pins, and that this also made them feel unsafe within the library. And then this kind of triggered a conversation among administration on how to deal with the situation. And I think that's basically how we got here.
And this time they chose, as different from the last time, they chose to go down this route where they were going to ban it.
Yes, exactly.
Nathan, what are some of the lessons that maybe listeners and the communities can draw from this experience of having a seemingly public space that's supposed to be so liberal, open for knowledge and exchange of information? So, I mean, what kinds of lessons can we draw from this? I mean, can you share any thoughts around that, and Andrei also?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the lessons is just, seeing the resilience of the workers. I mean, they've created their own, channels of communication and spaces for expressing, their conditions, workplace conditions. I think that, in the piece, we outline sort of some of the wider context, which is that, while this is an egregious policy, it's also been certainly a trend since October 7th and even before, a trend towards censorship, a trend to silence people speaking out about the genocide, a trend to censor those who do call it a genocide. And VPL is just kind of one site or one instance of that. But I think some of the organizing among the workers points to if not lessons, something to pay attention to and support them. And I'll leave it at that.
Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my big takeaways from this was just the ways in which a liberal administration can just kind of tie itself into knots when trying to, uphold these ideas of multiculturalism and yet, go after these like very loaded cultural symbols such as the keffiyeh specifically. The memo that went out to staff regarding, it was called Culture Attire at Work, and they really just, it's pretty hilarious to read it, but I can offer just a quote that we offer in the article. If someone is wearing a keffiyeh for political reasons, this is not permitted at work. If we believe that this is happening, we will ask questions and will not permit it to continue. However, if someone is wearing it as cultural attire, this has always been permitted, much like religious attire has always been permitted. And so this puts management in this impossible situation of having to police the reasoning behind why people are wearing keffiyehs in the first place. It's very...
it is crazy. It's so unfortunate, the way that it just... But it hits home when you see that it's happening at things like the public library. And to hear some of this context around how it came about is really interesting. And we've seen it. It's just another, like you rightly pointed out, since October 7th, we've seen this crackdown on people wanting to support Palestinians, and one of the ways that people have chosen to do that is through pins, attire, through waving a flag or keffiyeh or whatever it is, social media, and there's been so much flack on people, on professionals. A lot of people have lost work because of it. I feel bad for the folks that are working at the library, and having to go through this. Do we have any sense around their sentiments?
Yeah, I mean, I think to their credit, they've found ways of communicating and being in solidarity with each other. Through various formal and also informal networks, and through their union, through QP, have found these ways of, keeping their dignity, just, in the basic sense of the dignity that comes with being a worker, but also being a human and expressing yourself in this most basic way, and not just expressing yourself as such, but expressing your position on this egregious mass murder that has unfolded in front of all of our eyes for the past year.
What kind of responses have you gotten from the community on the article? This could be broad, the community, meaning it could be the mainstream media, it can be particular communities of people, it could be just general public. I just want to get a sense of what kind of feedback you've been getting on the article.
Well, generally speaking, I feel like the response has just been a lot of shock and surprise, because, this has been going on internally since June of last year, and no one was really, or not many people were aware that this was happening, and are, understandably and righteously, confused and angry about it.
Yeah.
Did the mainstream media pick up on this at all?
Yeah, surely enough. I think it was the day after we published it. There was a piece in the Vancouver Sun that also covered it, and then the CBC ran a piece a couple days after that. And yeah, it was the VPL actually did actually respond in the CBC article, and basically just using the same justification that they were using internally among their staff, that any sort of like political symbols are not accepted among staff because it's meant to be a politically neutral institution. But of course, when you don't allow specific political symbols, you are yourself taking a political stance.
Oh yeah, totally. It's I hope that it garners much more attention from folks who live here locally that use the library on a regular basis. I can think of parents and students and just the general public. The library is such an essential part. I've heard of people joking around how they're going to be leaving little bookmarks in the books that they return. That may or may not contain certain political statements or symbols. I think public action like that could be really interesting. Have you heard of anything around this from a response, from a community response?
I mean, not in any sort of, more organized and serious way, but how about you, Nate?
I also I haven't seen anything materialized like formally, but yeah, I have seen a lot of those comments of, folks just saying on social media, on Instagram, declaring their intention to, proudly wear their keffiyeh next time they go to the library.
As patrons, yeah. And then wait for a complaint because somebody got scared. It's really going to be interesting times. The Mainlander is such a fantastic journal, paper, news, media outlet. Call it whatever you want. I'm really happy that you guys are running these really groundbreaking stories and informing the community as to what's happening locally, as well as how it connects with the broader issues, just like this particular article. I want to give folks a chance to contribute in some ways if they can, through support or through financials or whatever it is. How can they do that if they so wish?
On the site, themainlander.com, there's a button for donations. There's a chance to become a monthly subscriber, a monthly donor through that link. But you can also give a one-off donations, and those donations go towards paying our writers if possible when we have that kind of funding, and keeping up the maintenance of the site and other, just annual costs that we have.
Yeah, and any sort of funding would be much appreciated. We are completely volunteer run, so we all do this, on the side. And yeah, I do think that it is important to have this sort of, alternative media right now.
Absolutely, especially now. I mean, we ourselves are going to be faced with an election cycle coming up very, very soon. Any last words, you guys, on anything?
I think just to reiterate some of the points that you made around the hypocrisy of trying to say no political symbols, as Andrei already pointed out, but also as we saw more recently with the invasion of Ukraine, wearing the Ukrainian flag, wearing the yellow and blue was never flagged as an issue. So I think it's important to hold the library to an actual standard where they have a coherent and fair policy that isn't just randomly applied when they decide that a certain political position is outside the preferred position of the upper funders and managers of the institution.
Totally.
Yeah, and also, the public library, like many of our public institutions, are going into bargaining this year. So, support your library workers. Many people in the public sector are fighting off against a whole lot of austerity, especially with this very right-wing council that we have right now. So, show your solidarity to your library worker.
Absolutely, and get a library card if you don't have one, and use it, and wear your keffiyeh if you go.
Absolutely.
Is there any breaking leak that you want to share with us? Some upcoming story that we can follow up with you guys that you're working on. You don't have to take it all out of the bag, but anything you want to share with us, because we'd like to follow up with you guys, maybe down the road, and maybe a couple of Mondays down the road.
Andrei?
Putting you on the spot. Give us your goods. Tell us what you're working on. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know, just if you wanted to share.
Just today we did publish, we published two pieces, but one of them is an op-ed in response to Ken Sim's recent decision to discontinue and basically scrap social housing in the downtown east side.
Mm-hmm.
So
good.
Go
it's
check
on
that
it's on the website. Very good.
It is. Yes.
Awesome. Okay, guys, we're gonna have to then just leave it at that and check in a couple of weeks or next month as we go. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking this time for breaking this important story and sharing with us.
Thank you so much, Elmer.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good evening. Bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so we're going to be continuing along, and I have a temporary fix for the transition music, which is the same Blade Raga. So stay tuned until we get to our next guest, who was, I believe, one of the Indigo 11, and she's going to tell us why. And stay tuned.